Adults especially, and graduate students and even undergrads learn better through active participation. As opposed to the traditional model where you're sitting in lecture with a couple hundred other people. So we use a lot of teach back. We use a lot of exercises and a lot of case studies that they have to use as groups to get together and actually synthesize the information that we go through in any given week. I think it makes them a little more nervous occasionally because, they are on the spot to be able to not just regurgitate the information, but sort of synthesize it with the core principles that we're using. The world changed when we hit COVID, and Gib and I were talking about there's no way that you can create a leadership program online, but we were forced into that situation, and I think it has evolved into something that actually is very engaging. But a couple of things that I require is that you're on camera, and that I will often ask for volunteers, but often bring people into the discussion, and not in a punitive way, but hey, what's your perspective of this? A big core principle of our course is there's not necessarily one right way to do things or one approach, because entrepreneurship can span a whole bunch of different ways to do it. And I've done it many, many different ways, some successful, some not. But it's getting them to think critically about a concept and share their thoughts on it. We also do a lot of teamwork, and I'd probably say 2/3 of the course is a team concept. So they are forced inside of their teams. Forced is the wrong word, but they're given the opportunity inside of their teams, to collaborate with each other. And the constant feedback I get is that it gives them a place where they feel a little calmer and more willing to share. And I also use some of the, an occasional pop quiz to make sure that we've got some of the tactical learning concepts down. But, not in sort of as I said, a punitive way, but more of like, let's make sure that we drive the understanding. Because one of the things I say to them all the time is I'm not as worried about the grade that you get in this course. I'm more worried about 10 years, 15 years from now, when you're pitching your entrepreneurial idea, that something clicks. You're like, oh yeah, I need to do this, or I should do that. The concept of the course is built around 3 case studies and a capstone. There's other learning that obviously goes on, but the 3 case studies and a couple of the exercises that I will give them in class if we're working on the financial accounting module. I will give them a problem set to work on. And I give them time with me to work on it in their groups and also come back and ask questions, whatever they have. But the case studies force them to come to the table 3 times a year with a written perspective of solving a problem. And I build the case studies around a little bit of pop culture movies, which at least I have fun with. I'm not sure how much they do. But it allows them to take a really abstract situation in the case studies. Like I built one on the movie Caddyshack. I built one on Old School, and use that scenario, but actually put the learning concepts in there. And they have to both prepare a written document, and for the last 2 case studies, they have to present their point of view. So it forces a different level of engagement. And then the capstone is what we call Retriever Tank, which is loosely based off of Shark Tank. And what I do is I get actual investors from the community who I have a relationship with come in for that capstone, which we do live. And actually we do it at Okamoka in Arbutus, which was birthed out of this program. And it allows them to interact. And I tell the investors, treat them as if you were treating any entrepreneurial pitch that was looking for capital or ideation. And, treat them the same way you would. So that interaction, and it takes about a half hour where they're pitching their idea, they're pitching their financial model, they're pitching their what they've learned around capital structures and valuations. They're pitching it to somebody who's does this all day, every day. And then what we do is we then spend, up to an hour afterwards where we kind of flip it, where the students have access to the investors and they can ask them any questions they want around career, entrepreneurship, path, all of those type of things. And it seems to engage them pretty well. And, it's something that a lot of the students that I talk to after the course remember. And I may foster a little bit of that nervousness along the way just to keep them really sharp. And then when they realize it's not as bad as they thought it was going to be, and everyone to a person says that 30 minutes goes by in an instant, because they're all worried, how am I going to fill 30 minutes? And it, as we all know, it goes by in an instant. One of the ways we do it on a very sort of, I would say, high level is in that first week when we talk about adult learning, we talk about different types of learners. Everything from visual learners, kinesthetic learners, auditory learners, read-write learners. And we explain a little bit of that, of why it's important to sort of touch each of those modalities and why it's important to appreciate the other modalities that you may not be. And then I build the course around a lot of different things. We use audio, we use a PowerPoint for the visual folks. We have those case studies for those who are more kinesthetic and want to sort of experience it. So I don't know if I do it perfectly, but we try to incorporate a lot of the different sort of types of learning. And then certainly if anybody needs accommodations, we have resources at UMBC to do that. And welcome that as well. One of the things that we do, and candidly, I stole this from Gib, was he calls it weekly inflections. I call them reflections. And what each student, and it's not graded, but they are expected to turn in a reflection of the course by sunrise the next morning. And I use sunrise as a sort of a timeline to make sure that they do it, and they do it in a time where the information is still, flowing in their head. I mean, I always find it really important when I go to a meeting or am in some sort of educational I will take a couple of minutes after I leave that and just jot down what I took out of it. And it's the same concept that I want them to have to help refine learning. And, again, it uses a lot of the adult learning theory of, writing and really taking time to put pen to paper or keyboard to computer on what they got out of that. And it's, I tell them I read every one and I will comment on them, but there's no, and this kind of drives them nuts, there's no structure to it. All I want you to do is reflect. And some people write a lot of prose. Some people give me bullet points. I mean, again, it goes back to their learning style and the way they want to communicate. But I think it's really helpful to get people to really think about in the moment, what did I take away from this? And, hopefully it helps with the retention.